Okay, this is part two. Um, in any event, now the history of slavery, it's very interesting because, yes, I'm a quarter Yugoslavian, and they're Czechoslovakians or Czechoslavs, and they're Yugoslavs. Yugo means south, and Slav means slave. Apparently, the Yugoslavs were enslaved by the Rus tribes, who later became Russians, um, somewhere back in the Dark Ages. So, yes, my ancestors were slaves. You know, slavery, though, ancient slavery wasn't based on skin color, so it was very different in a sense. In fact, one moment, I've got a great quotation here from my book on Greek grammar. This is from the pseudo Xenophon in the 5th century, must be BC. Yeah, 5th century BCE. Listen to this. Now, as to slaves and medics were foreigners. Now, as to slaves and medics in Athens, they live a most undisciplined life. One is not permitted to strike them, and a slave will not stand out of the way for you. Let me explain why. If the law permitted a free man to strike a slave or medic or a freedman, he would often find that he had mistaken an Athenian for a slave and struck him. For as far as clothing and general appearance go, the common people look just the same as slaves and medics. So here's a way you have slaves mixed in with the rest of society, but there's no way to tell um, by skin color, physical attributes that someone actually is a slave. When you start to base slavery on skin color and physical attributes, then I think it becomes an even far more destructive institution. Um, now, slavery in the United States being based on skin color, um, it was so pernicious. I don't know how you could have a worse form of slavery. I'm sure we could dream something up. We're humans. We can always come up with some nightmare. But you know, it. If you read some of the literature on it, and some of the literature of the effects of it, and some of the effects that still remain today, you have one population of one set of physical attributes enslaving another, and basically projecting well, the whites in this case, projecting all their own, you know, negative qualities and negative traits onto the other race, and basically saying, "Here's what you are," and basically projecting a negative stereotype onto them. And for some reason, I don't know why, we humans tend to internalize that image. I'll tell you, man. I can go to Italian neighborhoods and see Italian guys who are walking around, acting dumb, carrying guns on their hips, with blondes on their arms, and talking real Goomba, you know. And you're not going to find people like that in Italy. You can go to Italy, you might find sort of, you know, uh, gangish behavior or communal behavior, but you don't find this particular weird American version. You know, um, it's strange. The justifications for slavery are very strange. Usually what they do is the only way to really justify that you're not giving a human being equal rights is to say, oh, well, then they must not be human. And so what people do then is sort of slide people down on the special grade, and sort of depict people as subhuman. God, if you look at some of the early cartoons of the Irish immigrants, you'll see they've been given simian features. So this too is done is done with on the African American populace, and it's easier to do when somebody looks very different than you. It's much easier to say, oh well, they must really be different, and then slide them down. So that's really the first move. In any event, people tend to internalize that, and then you're caught in a vicious cycle. And I think a lot of this, once you're caught in that vicious cycle, it's very difficult for people to get out of. I can go to, Chicago, go to the Italian neighborhood, and I feel like shaking a guy and say, "What are you doing, man? You're not a Goomba, Wake up. You're smarter than that." Of course, the guy shoot me, so it's a dangerous thing to do. He's tied it, he's incorporated it internally into his identity. What am I going to do? I mean, I could tell him, you're probably descended from Plutarch. He's not going to understand it. He's locked in. Um, so and then of course with continuing discrimination, it just continues. It doesn't take much to keep a vicious cycle going. So ongoing discrimination is going to just reinforce it. So on that point, wait a moment while I gather my thoughts. Um, I lost it. I lost that thought. Too bad because it was a really good thought. Let me stop this thing while I gather that thought again. Huh? I'll do a part 3.